2022 was a really great year for movies. A year packed full of interesting films from renowned directors, along with an array of impressive debuts from new, exciting voices. And unlike other years, I pretty much got the chance to see everything I really wanted to before compiling this list, so I feel really great about it all. There was of course a wealth of options this year, so I do have some honorable mentions that didn't quite crack into the main list. Those are Benediction by Terence Davies, Both Sides of the Blade by Claire Denis, Corsage by Marie Kreutzer, The Eternal Daughter by Joanna Hogg, and Vortex by Gaspar Noé. I highly recommend all of those films, but without further ado, it's time for the best of the best. Todd Field's first film in 16 years, and one of the more widely discussed pieces of media this year, Tar, is a film designed to provoke audiences and ignite debate. It's, for one, about a lot of hot-button issues, the cult of celebrity, cancel culture, gender, among many other things, but refreshingly, it doesn't present those ideas in a bludgeoning you over the head with it all kind of way, but instead by taking a far more cold, clinical approach, as Field's camera is largely stagnant and observant, never guiding you in a particular direction, and there is no overbearing score to tell the viewer what to think or how to feel. We are just placed in every scene and allowed to take everything in our own accord. And it's hard not to be enraptured by it all, especially when you've got a tremendous Cate Blanchett at the center. Top it all off with quite possibly the most hilarious final shot of the year, and you've got yourself one of the most memorable movie-going experiences in recent memory.
우리 영화는 무슨 이야기가 될까요?
Ostensibly, the novelist's film is more of the same from Hong Sang-soo. It's not some major thematic or stylistic shift in any way, shape, or form. So if you're on board with his stuff, like myself, then you'll drink it up like his characters knock down bottles of soju. If you're not, then well, this one isn't going to change your mind, because the novelist's film is just as light and breezy as the rest of his oeuvre. One where lengthy conversations tumult into drinking escapades that then reveal bits and pieces about his very real, personal troupe of characters. And with this one, he's once again wrestling with artistic identity crises, but this time with a novelist instead of a filmmaker. I've always loved that Hong doesn't behold himself to the typical constraints of the medium. He just does him, in all of his gentle, unshowy, and self-reflexive work. I'll be there day one for every single one of them, so keep 'em coming, Hong.
No?
Jerzy Skolimowski's EO is essentially Bresson's Alhazard Balthazar if it was directed by Terrence Malick. I know that's a really reductive way to look at this wonderful little film, but I think it's kind of true, because in place of Bresson's formalistic austerity, we get a poetic and surrealistic film with a restless, wandering camera guiding us on one donkey's spiritual journey. It's a film that observes human nature through a wholly unique outside perspective, one that is voiceless but just as expressive as any human protagonist out there. I know that on paper, this could all seem like an absurd central conceit for a film, but EO is brimming with so much warmth and meaning within that absurdity. Just don't go in expecting some clear-cut narrative or message, and vibe with a donkey for 90 minutes straight. I don't think I had any more fun in a theater this year than when I first watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie so imaginative and exceptionally weird that also knows exactly when to slow the insanity down and stab you in the heart with some grand emotional moment. It's undoubtedly one big overblown mess of a film that definitely bites off more than it can chew, but it's a big mess that wears its heart on its sleeves and shows you something new and exciting with almost every passing second. I'm sure everyone has seen this movie at this point, so everything I could say about it has already been said many, many times before, and much better. But what an absolute miracle of a movie this is. For something this strange to end up becoming a smash commercial success really shows that maybe, just maybe, mainstream audiences do still have a desire for original films. And I hope the Daniels can continue to make stuff we haven't seen before, with all of the money and creative freedom they so rightfully deserve.
of the street in the rain that doesn't cool us.
Claire Denis' unfairly maligned Stars at Noon is an intoxicating, sensual film about transactional love within a post-colonial milieu, where sweaty, boozed-up lovers wander the hot streets of Nicaragua, dance in a Tinder stick-scored nightclub, and make love many, many times. It's pure vibes from front to back, with a nice jazzy score, mesmerizing images, and very languid pacing, only made better by Margaret Qualley, who is in perfect step with the physicality of Denis' work, in which glances and entangled bodies are at the forefront and a more traditional narrative is obscured. It definitely does leave some to be desired in terms of its political commentary, but when you look at this purely as a hypnotic mood piece and not some complex political thriller, it'll be a much more satisfying watch. Or maybe I'm just a Claire Denis shill and am bound to love everything she makes. Who knows? But one thing is for sure, I really, really loved this movie. You couldn't find a better high-dollar studio film this year than with Jordan Peele's wildly entertaining, spectacle-driven Nope, a film that knocked me right on my ass and showed me just how inventive and exhilarating big-budget cinema can be when you actually have someone with a vision behind the camera. This is not some assembly line-produced trash, but instead large-scale filmmaking that trusts its audience's intelligence and wants them to experience something wholly new and exciting. And Peele really gets to flex his filmmaking muscles with this one, pulling out all kinds of toys from his toy box, IMAX cameras, CGI monkeys, innovative day-for-night work, and getting to tell a strange, sinister story with them, interrogating humanity's appetite for spectacle all under the guise of this really interesting riff on the UFO movie. It's funny, unnerving, and most importantly, incredibly entertaining. Nope is by far the best thing Peele has made up to this point, and it's got me even more excited to see what else he has up his sleeves. Andrew Dominik's masterful Blonde conjures up a fictitious examination of celebrity icon Marilyn Monroe, using this fictional version of Marilyn, or Norma Jean, as a vehicle to talk about celebrity personas and the horrors of living as an almost otherworldly icon. It's easily some of the most provocative and exciting filmmaking I saw the entire year, with Dominik employing unceasing aspect ratio changes and color shifts, and structuring the story in a very surrealistic, fragmented manner. It's not an easy sit by any means, and the polarizing reactions tell you everything in that front, as Dominik asks a lot of the audience, and really puts us through the ringer. He admirably pulls no punches when depicting this grueling subject matter, and just hopes that we have the endurance to take it all in. So, in that way, I can totally understand why many were completely turned off by this one, but I was mesmerized by every inch of it, largely in part to Ana de Armas's arresting performance and the ethereal score from Nick Cave and Warren Ellis. It has continued to stick with me, and similar to Dominik's Jesse James, will likely be one that garners cult status over the coming years. Now let's just hope we don't have to wait another 10 years for Dominik's next one.
Play.
Kogonada's After Yang is this lovely, lo-fi science fiction film with a beautifully rendered depiction of the future and a core narrative that moved me deeply. I made a full video on After Yang earlier this year, so please check that out if you would like to hear more of my thoughts on this beautiful film.
Madame Colli, savez-vous pourquoi vous avez tué votre fille?
Je ne le sais pas. J'espère que ce procès pourra me l'apprendre.
Alice Diop's foray into fiction filmmaking, Saint-Omer, is a courtroom drama completely stripped of the grand theatrics found in most of the films of this subgenre. Diop strikes down anything that might ring false or seem melodramatic for an oblique, almost dispassionate film that spends most of its runtime confined within four walls of a courtroom, where her camera remains entirely static and observational and her compositions cold and emotionally detached. Some might find that style of filmmaking monotonous, others masterful, but because of that level of restraint, we get an exercise in cinematic empathy that is never gawking or sensationalized. We get a film devastating in its simplicity, where its slow, deliberate pace allows the drama to stew long after the credits roll, where the unspoken speaks so much louder than the openly expressed. It's truly staggering that something this challenging and confident is a narrative debut, and I can't wait for whatever fiction or non-fiction work is next for Alice Diop. Sebastian Meise's criminally underseen Great Freedom is an achingly tender queer romance set in post-war Germany that looks at love and its power to heal in the face of oppressive circumstances. That might sound cheesy on the surface, but this is a film that strays away from overt sentimentality and never indulges in the certain beats you might expect to find in a traditional love story. The film very easily could have fallen into those rousing, moralistic trappings of a Hollywood romance, in which it glosses over its protagonist's suffering in place of many cheap, saccharine moments that manipulate the viewer. But Meise instead finds beauty and power in the moments of complete silence. Those times spent in the empty darkness of solitary confinement, or in the tight interiors of a grimy prison cell, finding truly tender moments in these harshest of places. Franz Rogowski delivers quite possibly the greatest performance of the entire year, playing a man who has endured so much pain and suffering, and in turn has chosen to conceal all of his anger, fear, and sadness from the view of others. It's a shame that not many are discussing his work in this, because the sheer physicality and deeply burrowed emotion on display here is astounding. This might all seem like a massive downer of a film, and it occasionally is, but I think there is a light that shines through all of the immense sorrow. A light illuminating the fact that even when there are certain systems in place to invalidate your love, you can create your own idea of great freedom, and in your own singular way triumph in the face of oppression.
이러려고 위포에 왔어요? 내가 그렇게 만만합니까?
내가 그렇게 나쁩니까?
Walking into Park Chan-wook's decision to leave, I was expecting something along the lines of a typical erotic thriller, one where a detective becomes enamored with a bombshell beauty and everything spirals amidst plenty of eroticism and violence. Basically, Park Chan-wook's riff on something like Basic Instinct. But boy was I wrong, as Park pushes aside the many hallmarks of his filmography up to this point, extreme violence, sex, and nudity, in place of a deeply tender, romantic thriller. There's criminal conspiracies and procedural drama aplenty, but entangled in all of that is a story of love and desire, of two individuals continually drawn to one another, caught in a web of mystery and deceit. The film is also incredibly playful, with some screwball-level hijinks, alongside Park's use of all kinds of filmmaking trickery that will either excite you or distract you, employing a bunch of zooms, jump cuts, crossfades, and wonky compositions that, to me at least, only serve to heighten the narrative and thematics while never taking away focus from its puzzle piece plotting. It's genuinely rare to see a film that doesn't waste a single second of its runtime, but here, Park packs every single moment with so much style and care. It's probably my favorite thing he's made thus far, and I have a feeling that I'll somehow love it even more upon further rewatches. With all the beauty and the bloodshed, renowned filmmaker Laura Poitras turns her gaze to artist Nan Goldin, someone I knew criminally little about before viewing this film, and looks at her life not through Wikipedia entries, but through a formless style of documentary filmmaking that deftly blends the personal with the political, as the film is able to simultaneously be a searing indictment of the systemic failures that have allowed individuals to profit off of suffering, while also documenting Goldin's own personal formative experiences and dysfunctional upbringing. In that way, it can feel like multiple films in one, and in much lesser hands this would have felt unfocused, but with Poitras' skillful touch, we get one of the most formally bold and emotionally resonant works of the entire year. A film that shows us just how important film and photography can be, and that they exist to evoke memories of times past and challenge pre-existing notions. I think this is the way filmmakers should strive to tell people's stories, not through lame slideshow presentations, but through a perfect blend of the abstract and the intimate, toying with the form just enough to tap into your subject's individuality, while also not getting anything too inaccessible for mainstream audiences. All the beauty and the bloodshed moved me deeply and was a healthy reminder of why documentaries are the most vital form of cinema out there. Everyone's favorite freaky grandpa, David Cronenberg, returned with his first feature since Maps to the Stars with Crimes of the Future, a film that was sold as this sicko, stomach-churning nightmare that ultimately ended up being far more sad and melancholic than disturbing. There's definitely flourishes of that trademark Cronenbergian body horror, but this whole thing is so much more gentle than some of his films like Videodrome or Crash. It's a talky, slow-paced rumination on feeling one with your body, alongside this deeply felt look at the relationship between the natural and the manufactured. These are of course ideas that Cronenberg has been tossing around for decades in his work, yet it all still feels so distinct here, largely because he's really allowed to break free, playing around in these barren, decaying Greek landscapes full of stilted, almost unreal feeling characters, all drowned in a digital sheen and deeply goofy plotting. And if Crimes of the Future had ended up being Cronenberg's swan song, I think it would have been a very poetic ending to his illustrious career. But he's already got another one on the way, and who knows how far he will push the medium next. And how could you not be thrilled by that prospect?
They tell me you want to be a picture maker.
Yes, sir, I do.
Why? This business, it'll rip you apart.
Well, Mr. Ford,
So what do you know about art, kid?
We have been inundated with many great filmmakers' cinematic memoirs over the past few years, but Steven Spielberg's joyous yet deeply emotional The Fabelmans stands out amongst the crowd, capturing the genesis of one's deep love for cinema and how that snowballs into an almost inescapable desire to capture images of your own. But underneath that love letter to movie making is this deeply moving tale of a young boy who so desperately wants control of the uncontrollable, someone who begins to experience the harsh truths of life and finds that the creation of art fulfills his deep desire for control. The film becomes an almost act of therapy, a reckoning with the past that has a sense of regret and pain coursing through it. But Spielberg also knows exactly when to plaster his heart and soul across each frame, becoming sappy and sentimental in all the best ways possible, while still retaining his complex emotional core. Janusz Kaminski's cinematography holds a warm glow that gives each scene a sense of magic in the seemingly ordinary. His camera movements are so graceful, and the light and shadows cast across the characters are so expressive. And these things all work together to build a final shot that is one of the very best in recent memory. The Fabelmans is yet another masterwork from a genius sifting through his childhood memories and printing them onto celluloid for the world to see. What a film. Charlotte Wells' After Sun is easily the movie of the year for me, a film that shattered my soul and has continued to linger in my mind long after the credits have rolled. A debut feature about so many things: the fragmentation of memory, the unknowability of our parents, the travails of adolescence, yet these are all perfectly invoked through restrained, empathetic filmmaking that finds beauty in the benign, using a collection of small moments, minute gestures, thoughts left unsaid, to build devastating work that is far more interior than exterior. Wells truthfully depicts the fallibility of memory and all of the details that inevitably fade with time, and the nostalgia that blinds us to the truth, about how we can look back on those seemingly trivial, fleeting moments and ultimately use those to try and piece together a complete picture of someone completely unknowable to us. And the exceptional Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio are the vessels by which we get to experience this, building a natural, vulnerable bond where they're able to communicate so much through so little. There's this deep sadness behind Paul Mescal's eyes, an innocence yet awareness within Frankie Corio's gazes, and with every watch, those subtle acts of performance become more crucial in peeling back this film's layers. Because what begins as a simple father-daughter holiday film slowly morphs into something far more emotionally intelligent than anticipated. After Sun is simply one of the greatest directorial debuts I've ever seen, and one that I will cherish forever and never be able to shake. It's by far the best film of 2022. Well, that's my list. Thank you so much for listening to me gush about all of the wonderful stuff we got this year. I think amidst all of the doom and gloom regarding the future of cinema, it can be easy to forget that we do still get incredible films each and every year. So movies like these are worth celebrating and championing. But that's all I got. Now let's just hope 2023 is an even better year for the movies.